In this tutorial, I will explain the process of designing a moving background using Lyric Pro. I am using these 7 objects, a mixture of 2D and 3D images. So we will combine them all together to make a nice moving background completely generated in Lyric that looks like this. I'll use a 3D Chyron logo, a 3D primitive of a cylinder, and these varied bitmaps either as texture maps to the 3D logos or just animating around the screen by themselves. Okay, let's break this scene apart by turning all the layers off. I started with this blue bitmap file that is actually 1920 by 1080 in size. We are dealing with 3D objects in designing this animated background, and we learned before that 3D space needs a little bit more depth. So all I did was send this full screen way back into Z space and then scaled it up so it looked full frame. Then I added the Chyron News bitmap along the bottom. It is just text that I typed in Lyric and saved it as a 32-bit target file. To get the animation, I am using the surface properties to animate it on its X offset. The animation takes 1 minute and is set to loop in the transition properties. The mapping of this image should be set to repeat, so it just keeps repeating over the 1 minute. The main thing to look at is the start keyframe should match the end keyframe. If it does, set it to loop in the transition properties and Lyric handles the perfect looping. Now I wanted to add a highlight across the top of the words. I turned on the additive blending, which makes it stand out more, and it will blend with other highlights in the scene, as you will see in a minute. I copied this flare and made one animating over top of it to give it a little bit more highlight animation. Now I added this bitmap and scaled it up to fill the screen. Turned on blending and then went to surface properties and changed the color to blue. I animated this file the same way the Chyron News is animating. It is looping over 30 seconds and gives that blue wave going across the screen. The 3D cylinder was then imported into the scene, and I added this small bitmap as a flare to the outside surface. Then I adjusted the scale and position of it to make the smaller looking flare. Because the cylinder is round, then just spinning it around as y-axis gives you the circular flare. Now I added that to a group and rotated the group a little. Each one of these was a copy of the last. The only change was its position and the length of the spin. Check them all as loop, and they all loop at their set times. The last import was the 3D Chyron logo. I took all the existing colors and textures off and just applied this same little target with alpha. Again, did a spin over 360 degrees and made it loop. The final piece of the background was the mask object that was used in other tutorials. I wanted the 3D Chyron logo and the flares to be masked at the bottom so you could see the Chyron letters a little bit better. So I brought in the mask, made it bigger, assigned it to a layer, and then assigned all the objects to be masked to the same layer. There you have it. With a few 2D and 3D objects and Lyric Pro, we now have a new background to put behind other graphics. As you can see, this next page is exactly the same, but the blue BG was swapped out for a red one, and the blue flares were changed to red flares, and we have a completely new background. One last thing I want to do with this message. Let's assume that you have other scenes that you want this new blue background behind. Make sure you have all the layers selected in the scene graph, or in this case, select the top group, which includes everything, and click on File, Export Selected Nodes. Give it a name and save it. Now you can read up any scene you have already built and import the node as a background. This is the next scene we'll be working on, so let's see how the blue background looks behind it. There you go. It is that simple to create your own animated background in Lyric and save them as a single file that can be imported very easily into other scenes.